Welcome everyone. Today we have our another new episode and we will discuss on AI in environment monitors transformation data into climate actions. We have our world famous speaker, Mr. Rob Enderle. Mr. Rob Enderle, what you want to discuss about AI in environmental monitoring transforming data into climate action?
Well, so the biggest project that I'm aware of is Earth 2, which is the project that NVIDIA started several years ago that takes environmental data and then creates simulations for not only how the world is acting now, but what the world's going to look like if trends continue. And this data-driven approach allows you to create visualizations of the impact of climate change events. And because it's based on real data, real-time data, it can be updated real time and over time. And then what you end up with is a 3D model of the world, and you have the ability to showcase visually what the impacts of actual climate change are. And it's all database. It's not opinion. It's all founded hard on the data that's already being collected on the various climate events happening across the world.
Thank you. My first question is for you. How can AI improve the accuracy and efficiency of data collections in environmental monitoring?
So what AI can do is take a look at historical data and trends and look for anomalies. A lot of the issue with regard to even being good at forecasting weather events, which has been problematic, is the inability to either get enough data or to be able to correlate the data that is predictive of the event against data that has nothing to do with it. For instance, a heat event that might be connected to a fire would not be consistent with a heat event that's connected with the weather. So being able to make determinations with regard to the sensors that are working and not working, being able to look at historic events and looking for anomalies and then flagging the anomaly as something that's out of bounds, and either discounting it or flagging a researcher to take a look at it to see if they've discovered something that was not anticipated. That's the kind of thing that AI can do. It can look at the data, refine the data, and come up with a better predictive model for both weather and global warming events.
Okay. My next question for you, in what ways can AI analyze environmental data to identify patterns or trend related to climate change?
Well, AI doesn't get sleepy, it doesn't get tired, it operates 24/7. And so it's watching the environmental data much longer than a human possibly could. And it's able to look far deeper into the data, looking at tens of thousands of different sensors, and building trends out of that. And by using its historical knowledge, it's able to make determinations about the sensor data, and then be far more predictive about the outcomes. And I think part of gaining trust in environmental change data is when this data and these models can actually do a better job of predicting major weather events with enough time to be able to mitigate the impact. We just had a hurricane here in the United States that was far worse than I think anybody anticipated, and it's that ability, that future ability to be able to predict those events and then tie them back to the actual occurrence that will build strength in the models and help people believe that if in fact these systems can more accurately predict weather, then these systems can more accurately predict long-range impacts like climate change.
Thank you. My next question for you, in what ways can AI analyze environmental data to identify pattern or trend related to climate change?
Well, it looks at data across a broad spectrum of elements. Ocean warming, impact of the heat on the ground, atmospheric changes, both mostly chemical, in terms of being able to reflect light or observe or pass through light and heat, the impact of smog and pollutants on the environment, and it's able to create vast models that can inform on what's likely to happen when you make a major change. Say, for instance, if you drop in a city where there currently is a forest, So you go from being able to absorb CO2 to not being able to absorb it and reflecting heat and light back into the atmosphere, increasing the impact of the heat and light. That's the kind of thing that AI can do. And so it can showcase maybe better places to build or inform on better ways to build. So you're not further causing the climate change problem, and you start to mitigate it with your construction and with the various events that you have that are both polluting and non-polluting to create a better path forward for the planet.
Thank you. My next questions for you. How does AI contribute to the development of the predictive model for climate-related events such as extreme weather or biodiversity loss?
Well, that back again through simulation. By looking at history, the AI learns cause and effect, and so after learning cause and effect, and depending on the amount and accuracy of the older data elements, it's able then to predict with an increasing degree of accuracy. I shouldn't say high initially, but an increasing degree of accuracy, future events based on similar trends. So it learns from the past to predict the future, and particularly with regard to biodiversity loss, it can showcase the underlying impact of that loss. So, for instance, one of the bigger concerns we have right now is the loss of bee populations, and bees are significantly important to our ability to maintain a biodiverse ecosystem because they pass pollen. And so as a result of those models, we're now developing things like robotic bees, mechanisms that can take the bee's place should the bees become virtually extinct, and be able to continue the ability for plants to reproduce. It's these predictive models that are allowing us to anticipate the downside of biodiversity loss and what we need to do to mitigate those losses in order to assure the planet continues to sustain itself.
Thank you. My next question for you, what challenges do organizations face when implementing AI solutions for environmental monitoring, and how can they be addressed?
Well, the big one is accurate data capture and data sharing. We live in an environment that lacks a certain amount of trust, and to really be able to predict large-scale events, we need to have sensors that are global in nature. And there are a lot of countries that don't really want sensors placed in their geography reporting back to foreign entities about what's going on in the country, even if those things are just heat related. Because you can make determinations from those sensors that go beyond weather. You can use them to sense movement. You can use them to sense manufacturing that otherwise might not have been captured by satellites. And so there's this concern that the data that's being captured might be used, and it's a valid concern, might be used against the countries that are supplying the data. So the big problem right now is assuring the quality of the data, and then making sure that you have enough sensors in place globally to be able to create the accurate predictive model that you want to create, and getting through the concerns that legitimate concerns that countries have with regard to providing this data has been and continues to be problematic.
Thank you. What is your advice for emerging economy to develop better policy for climate change and for artificial intelligence?
Well, making sure you're prioritizing what it is you're trying to fix. If climate change is a significant problem for you, and in most emerging economies it is, it's a lot of those economies are agrarian in nature, and climate change is making it very hard to grow food. So if you lose your ability to grow food and you don't have much of an industry to supplement that you're going to be in a great deal of trouble. And being able to understand what's going on to the climate goes part and parcel to being able to preserve your agrarian economy and assuring that you can grow food and supply that food to your population. So it really should be a far higher priority. And I think the emerging economies should be far more interested in sharing the data than more developed countries in order to help prevent the kinds of events that make food growth difficult or impossible in their geography, because it's that loss of the ability to grow food is part of what's causing these climate migrations from these emerging economies to more developed nations that have perhaps a bit more resistance to the climate change, and sadly are also contributing to it more greatly. So You want to maintain your population. You need to maintain your ability to provide them with clean air, clean water, and food, medicine, and here the being able to better predict climate events in advance, so you can harden your agriculture so it can survive those events, becomes incredibly important to the state's survival.
What's your closing remarks for today's sessions?
Well, AI climate monitoring is going to be one of the major steps to being able to mitigate climate change, and maybe to prevent or reverse it. But right now, I think the focus on mitigating these problems in order to keep people from dying from these increasing major climate events, and preventing the elimination of your ability to grow food and provide clean water to your population is incredibly important, and arguably more important to emerging economies which are far more dependent on the more traditional ways of growing and distributing food, ways that are becoming obsolete as a result of climate change. It becomes an important technology to be aware of, important technology to deploy, and an incredibly important technology in terms of being able to assure the survival of the state as we go through these different climate events.
Thank you. I request all of our audience, please share my content as much as possible, and see you in the next episode. Thank you. Bye bye and take care.